Frederick Engels and Karl Marx would have adopted a guideline, thus anointing intellectuals to bungle with power by controlling will, visions of the sophomore neophytes who dabbled with the idea, the inspiration that arose from the Communist Confession of Faith. Originally, the precursor to the philosophy of communism that would be articulated by different factions, such as the League of the Just, the League of Outlaws, whence Christianity took a back seat in Germany as it had in France. Strangely, the disregard for Catholicism and Christianity would have immigrants and artisans protest the tenets of that system and adopt an a-religious stance as a secular society, and one that would, at the advice of Engels and Marx, make a new religion, scrapping the idea of catechism, claiming out of dogma to replace the emblem of new dogma. Thus, the manifesto of the Communist Party would be articulated by a man that favored fondly the rebellious nature of Lucifer. The purpose of communism was never to remove capitalism, but likewise to take the model of the Catholic Church, demanding that outsiders can contribute to their newfound religion, supporting communism by making use of economics, solving the disparity of human suffering by causing people to become equally poor and thus enslaved. Of course, that is at root what communists say at the surface. The abolition of God and allowing state government to issue the communist regime property, whilst the abolition of private property of the middle class and the taking of that property to give to the working class. A class that was the specter, the men and women of the factories that would only be used as an argument, the inspiration to which those who had more should lose what they had. The bourgeoisie, as Marx fancies, is the middle class, the proletariat, the working class. Those who did not have affluence wrongly assumed that if they had riches, happiness would result. The thing that communists want more than anything else is materials for me, but not for thee. Karl Marx, for example, just wanted capitalism, so much so that Engels would be his personal coffer, his personal line of credit. Communists in general most resemble the humanists and nihilists who quite often promote atheism, in that God, the divine providence which is held in reverence of law, is now divorced, and the state is wed in unholy matrimony by the will of mankind. The word utopia is not what you think it means. A Greek word which means no place, of which the communists desire. Communism is plagued with laughably bad ideas where the redistribution of wealth goes to a select few, allowing the reinvention of self-appointed aristocracy to make claim that a class society is to be abolished, when in truth it is only substituted by men who want power. It's pure and simple. The goal of communism is simple. Abolish private property, make a classless society, and have an economic system which steals from the many to benefit the political class. The role of communism does not remove disparity or fixes any problem. It merely uses disparity to give the few that want power by murdering anyone it deems a threat. Communists allow the greed of people to be used as tools for the cause, for the benefit of the few at the expense of the many. Ultimately, the goal is to destroy the family unit. Communists call it the abolition of the family, and it is the means of destroying the middle class, an Hegelian dialectic that is master to no one, but the destructor to all. The model for communism is simplistic. It builds a castle in sand, near the ebb and flow of the sea. The tides of time will wash away, its existence. Communists are the worst kind of despots. They wish to tax everyone into oblivion. They gladly pocket the proceeds, and if you have any inheritance, they will take it from you. Anything given to you, they will take away, and they will give to the state. It was the principles of Marx that inspired the NSDAP of Germany to use force, sending people into prison camps. The Bolsheviks used guns to coerce people to be worked without mercy, and work they did, to the extent of death, in the gulags. The Germans and the Russian socialists stole from the people and sent their opposition to die in concentration camps. It made normal citizens slaves. Communism uses forcible overthrow by force and violence. We have no compassion for you. We shall not make any excuses for the terror. Karl Marx. Marxists do not believe in peace. Peace is viewed as weak. To reject war in principle is un-Marxist. Vladimir Lenin, 1914. Karl Marx was very fond of drinking. He would tackle on several bottles of wine. He preferred the company of men and women, very much so. Loud parties, revelry, sodomy. After getting drunk, his friend Karl Heinzen walked home with him. Once home, Marx was hornier than a bitch. And he was on heat. And he wanted to fuck Heinzen. Marx told him, "You are my prisoner." Heinzen didn't want to get fucked in the ass by Marx. So, Karl Heinzen ripped out the door from the hinges. He preferred females. Marx didn't mind men, although he pretended to disdain homosexuality, as most communists do. Marx responds, "Go home, strong man." Marx made mention before that he could settle for himself being an imp than summon the devil himself. For an atheist, Marx was very fond of sodomy, both young men and women. He had no preference. He would use them and abuse them, and abuse he did. For the destruction of the family would benefit a man who enjoys debauchery of the highest order. Karl Marx didn't get to fuck Karl Heinzen, so he disdained him. Mikhail was another crush of Marx, a Russian atheist, that there was no frank intimacy, that Marx was a heap of filth. Much later, Karl Marx would call Mikhail a buffoon. Both Karl Marx and Mikhail hated religion and God. According to Mikhail, all religions are cruel, all founded in blood. Yes, our first ancestors, our Adams and our Eves, were, if not gorillas, very near relatives of gorillas, omnivorous, intelligent, and ferocious beasts endowed in a higher degree than the animals of another species with two precious faculties, the power to think and the desire to rebel.